Hi, welcome to another edition of Inside CRCAIH. I'm your host, Melissa Buffalo, and super excited today. We are with Abigail Echo-Hawk with the Urban Indian Health Institute. Welcome, Abigail.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, so we are finishing up the summit, year 6 of the Population Health Summit, and again, Abigail was one of our main speakers yesterday, so just wanted to spend some time with her on camera and kind of let her share some more of her stories, because I think she's a really awesome storyteller. So, Abigail, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background?
Sure. So I'm an enrolled member of the Pawnee Nation of Oklahoma on my father's side. I actually grew up in the interior of Alaska, though, amongst the upper Athabascan people, and just had an incredible time being there and learning these ideas of love, generosity, and caring for our people, which I really think shaped where I have gone with my research and where I hope to continue to go.
Awesome. So I always try to connect with the question, and I think for me, yesterday hearing you talk about urban Indians, and I'm excited. I want to ask you again about that and kind of maybe talk a little bit more about that, because I think I grew up in Rapid City and then I lived in Minneapolis and New York, and so I've always identified and considered myself urban Indian. So yesterday you spread a whole new light, so I'm just like boom, boom, boom. So if you want to tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So I currently serve as the director of the Urban Indian Health Institute. We are one of 12 tribal ethnological centers that are located across the United States. The difference between what UIHI, our very cool acronym, UIHI does is that we work nationally across the urban Indian populations that live across the United States. And so we recognize that about 65 to 70% of our people currently live in urban settings. And we've gone there for a variety of reasons, everything from relocation to the colonization and genocide that resulted in less economic opportunity on the reservations, and also to seek educational and economic opportunity. And so we have these amazing, thriving centers in urban settings across the United States where Native people, just like we've always done, have established strong communities, strong cultural ties, and continue to grow and really contribute as Indigenous peoples to their urban settings. However, a lot of times people concentrate more on the urban than they do on the Indian when we talk about Native people living in urban settings. And urban is where we live. Native and Indian is who we are. So when I define urban Indians for the work that we do, it is tribal people currently living off of tribal lands in urban settings. And some tribal people are living in their own lands that are currently inhabited by many other people. And so it's really thinking about us in our cultural ties sense. It's not where we live, it's who we are as a cultural people.
Awesome. I think that's great. Shifting gears, and I know we necessarily didn't talk about this, so just any quick advice when you think about community engagement and how, even for myself, going into tribal communities that I'm not from, or for researchers, like any advice on helping them to set foot or to work with those communities?
Sure. So community engagement is one of the things that I started out doing. I worked as a tribal liaison for an Institute of Translational Health Sciences, which is a funded center by the NIH, a Center for Translational Science Award. And I spent a lot of time just building relationship with communities, doing community outreach, and training principal investigators on what that meant to become truly community engaged. And some of the key steps is recognizing that regardless of what your tribal background is, when you go into another community, it's a new culture, it's a new language, it's a different way of being, and you have to be there to learn, to practice cultural humility. Look introspectively at yourself and every day ask, am I learning from the community? Am I coming in with preconceived ideas? Am I being in relationship with them? There's one tribe that I worked with where we didn't do a project for almost 4 years. But I came to lots of meetings, I went to powwows, I went to dances, I went to family dinners, I went to tribal councils, and I was just in community with it. It was probably one of the most, for me, one of the best learning experiences I've ever had. And then about 4 years down the road, they actually became to trust me and my judgment, and along with those that I was working enough to then come into a research partnership with us. Working in communities, and I think this expands beyond just tribal communities, working in communities means relationship. You have to build relationship with the communities that you're in, because otherwise, how are you going to know what you're doing is actually effective? Yes. How are you going to know that what you're bringing in isn't going to be harmful to the community? You can come in with the best of intentions, but if you don't have the relationship, it's just not going to be likely that you're going to have the success that you're hoping to see. And when I think about urban Indians, that's a whole nother thing as we look at right now, clinical trials, for example. I've worked a lot in clinical trials, and we notice that there are very low enrollment of Native people just generally. Now, if you look and you see lots of large urban settings in New York City and Denver, Colorado, and Seattle, Washington, places with strong research centers doing clinical trials, no Indians enrolled in their trials. There has not been community engagement of the urban Indians that are currently living in these areas where we should have the opportunity, if we wish, to participate in this kind of research. So we really need to expand and look at how do we bring in those cultural communities who have stories within their genetics, stories within their experiences, stories within everything that they come with has a story attached. How are those stories, what are we missing on by not including them in these research studies? So I am a true believer in bring those opportunities. Let us help you guide and shape those research opportunities so they can truly benefit the community, both whether you're in an urban setting or within a tribal reservation-based setting.
Awesome. I could sit here and talk to you all day, but I know we are on an episode of Inside CRCAIH, so I have one last question before we leave off. I think myself and others want to know if you and Michaela have become best friends yet.
Hashtag best friends.
Awesome.
Yes. We're on LinkedIn together now. Anybody, you just got to check it out. LinkedIn Best Friends.
Awesome. Thank you, and we will see you on another episode of Inside CRCAIH. Bye.